What happened? Why are you crying?
Every time I think about the rule under Stalin and Hitler, I cried for unfortunate tragedies.
I don't know about them. Would you like to teach me so that I can share my opinion with you?
Examining the past, have you ever wondered whether communism or fascism was more destructive?
Maybe.
The word communism, in theory, is a form of government that eliminates private property and a creation of classless states. Based on Marx, the founder of communism, people eventually would embrace an authentic freedom because people are eventually equal. Communism also valued society more than individuals, meaning the government will prioritize society as a whole, such as equal amount of distribution of food before people.
In that case, why did Stalin and Hitler kill massive amount of people?
Communism in practice is different from its theory. Not only did people not embrace true freedom, they were forced to work for the country. Those who protested on harsh conditions usually were killed or sent to concentration camps to work as slaves.
But how would you compare whether communism or fascism is more destructive?
For communism, we are going to examine Stalin's rule from 1920 to 1953 in the Soviet Union. For fascism, we are going to learn fascism under Adolf Hitler's rule from 1934 to 1945 in Germany.
Okay, continue.
Stalin obtained the power after the death of Vladimir Lenin. In case you don't know, Lenin was a Bolshevik leader. Vladimir Lenin Stalin replaced the idea of new economic policy net with socialism in one country. The concept of new economic policy was originally proposed by Lenin, who believed that private individuals who have small enterprises in the state continued to control banks and industries. As he said, the net was major transformation was occurring politically, economically, culturally and spiritually. It was also known as state capitalism. The concept of socialism in one country, proposed by Stalin, was a way to advance us in industrialization to improve itself.
Can you tell me what destructions did Stalin cause?
Destructions caused by Stalin could be split into two categories: the Great Purge and religion. Have you ever heard of the Great Purge?
No, can you tell me about it?
During 1934 to 1940, triggered by the death of Sergei Kirillov, Stalin launched the Great Purge. It was purged toward government officials in the Communist Party. Suspicions about saboteurs or those who disrupt politics, imprisonment, and arbitrary executions were all over in the Soviet Union.
What was the result?
About 900,000 to 1.2 million were dead. Stalin also destroyed churches. For example, Stalin ordered to destroy the Palace of the Soviets in December 5, 1931 in Moscow, Russia, near the Kremlin.
Stalin believed in the idea that religion was an opium that needed to be removed. I see. That was a really good explanation. Now, shall we look at fascism?
Sure. Fascism is a form of radical authoritarian nationalism that valued power more than individual rights such as freedom of speech, press, and religion. Fascism is also classified under totalitarian, which is a form of authoritarian government that seeks to control all aspects of lives of publics. Fascists were conservatives who wanted to follow the old path of history when people follow a king.
What were the leaders often called?
They were known as dictators.
I see. If I recalled, you said that we are going to examine fascism led by Adolf Hitler from 1934 to 1945 in Germany. Am I right?
Yes, Adolf Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, which later on known as the Nazi Party, in 1919. In February 26, 1924, Hitler was charged with treason based on the consequences of the Beer Hall Putsch, which was an attempt made by him to seize power in Munich, Bavaria. He was sent to the Landsberg prison for a 5-year sentence. He wrote a famous book called Mein Kampf, My Struggle, and stated how he believed in social Darwinism. Social Darwinism was the notion that a person believes his race is superior than any other races. In this case, Hitler believed the Germans are better than other non-Germans such as Jews, and such race should be eliminated. Destructions made by Hitler could be categorized as killings, Action T4. Opposition toward Jewish churches and Nero decree. Holocaust was the mass murder of Jews. Among 9 million Jews, 2/3 of them were killed. Over 1 million of Jewish children were killed. 2 million Jewish women were killed. 3 million Jewish men were killed. There were over 40,000 facilities to keep older Jews. As for Soviet prisoners of war, Germany officials saw the Soviet prisoners of war pose as a threat. They viewed the Poles as Slavic subhumans and Bolshevik and thus classified Poles alone with Jews. Soviet prisoners were the second largest groups of victims after Jews, which contained total amount of 13.7 million deaths. 5 million victims were Russian, 3 million victims were Ukrainian, and 1.5 million were Belarusian. 2.2 million victims were found dead as forced laborers. Deaths of Soviet civilians were estimated around 7-10 million. And lastly, homosexuals. Homosexuals were rejected by Nazism because it failed to pass down the master race. Around 5,000 and 15,000 homosexual men were in concentration camps. Lesbians did not receive harsh treatment, could only label as asocial.
How about Action D4?
Action T4 was a program that carried with doctors who used euthanasia to kill those who were judged as incurably sick based on professional medical examination in Germany under Hitler's rule. Action T4 officially was not further executed in 1945 after the fall of Third Reich. There were at least 200,000 patients who were killed through waves included starvation and gas chambers.
How about the churches?
About 300 Jewish churches were destroyed by Hitler. For example, Arnold Frank's Jerusalem Church in Hamburg was destroyed by the Nazis in 1942.
Okay, I guess I learned a lot. But what's the Nero Decree?
The full name of Nero Decree is Demolitions on Reich Territory Decree. On March 19, 1945, Hitler ordered the Nero Decree to destroy infrastructures in Germany. He set up bombs in places included third landmarks and transportation hubs. He did not want Allied forces to use those infrastructures. As he said, it is a mistake to think that transport and communication facilities, industrial establishments and supply depots which have not been destroyed, or have only been temporarily put out of action, can be used again for our own ends when the lost territory has been recovered. The enemy will leave us nothing but scorched earth when he withdraws, without paying the slightest regard to the population. Hitler did not surrender to the Allied forces.
Okay, after you finish explaining both sides, which side do you think it's more destructive?
Fascism led by Adolf Hitler from 1934 to 1945 in Germany was more destructive than communism led by Joseph Stalin from 1920 to 1953. It was because Hitler killed more people than Stalin did. If you do math, you can conclude that Hitler killed about 40 million of people. On the other hand, Stalin killed about 20 million people. This significant difference was 20 million. Therefore, it showed that Hitler was more destructive in humans. According to Hitler, he intended to destroy infrastructures and cities that they have destroyed. For instance, Paris, as means to prevent enemies from using them.
Okay.
Hitler also created genocide of Jews because he defined Jews as subhumans whereas Germans are a master race. His notion of social Darwinism motivated him to eliminate groups included Soviet prisoners of war, Soviet civilians, and homosexuals.
Overall, I can understand the reason you cried. These were extremely unfortunate events in the past. Let's go get some ice creams, shall we? They are helpful on a transition of mood.